The General Matthew Kirikou Stadium in Cotonou has been renovated and the citizens are reacting excitedly about the renovation. Tanzania's opposition Chadema party held its first mass rally since a ban imposed by a former president. The opposition now has a seat in the 9th parliament and they snatched 28 seats and will have to decide on the same table as the 81 members of the presidential majority. Good afternoon, our dear viewers. Welcome to the 1 p.m. news edition, coming to you live and direct from Golfe TV AFRICA here in the city of Cotonou with Hazel OGOIGBE. Now to the news in detail, starting from the local scene. Now, the General Matthew Kirikou Stadium in Cotonou has been renovated, and one of the implications of this project was the eviction of businesses around the stadium. Now, the renovation is a welcome development, and this is evident by the reactions of the citizens near the stadium. More information in the following report. General Matthew Kirikou Friendship Stadium has been rehabilitated and it has been modernized thanks to the healthy bilateral Benin-Sino cooperation, the healthy relationship between Benin Republic and China. The jewel was officially delivered to the Beninese government on Thursday, the 1st of July 2021. In spite of the football stadium, the complex interior is receiving a face-up courtesy the repainting of the interior. It is getting a makeover. The image of the football pitch, the metal sheets encircling the work site, and the caterpillars coming and going signify that work is ongoing.
Très bien, parce que comme argument, je vais prendre la réflexion du stade là où je joue le football. Ça évolue très bien, on a vu que ça a été clôturé en temps.
Work is going on well because there's an argument. I'll take the refurbishment of the stadium itself. The football pitch, it is getting a new face. We saw that it was closed for a while, but with time we saw that it has been renovated. Everything has changed. Work going on is progressing at a good pace. In my opinion, there is progress, and the progress is evident because there's no day when you do not see trucks coming in and going out of the stadium. This implies that work is ongoing inside. In the era of change, when projects are handled, they are given deadlines for the execution. Deadlines are respected in relation to the government's actions. They understood that when the government gives precise deadlines, these deadlines are respected. We have seen that Benin Republic has changed on many levels, and it is necessary. We must admit it, even if those handling these projects put in extra work to enable them deliver the project on time. The Beninese citizens are still amazed after a few months of completion of the renovation of the football field in this stadium.
Donc j'ai vu qu'il y a déjà un changement par rapport à avant que
it is our work. The change is obvious. A while ago I said when I came to the stadium I saw that there is a difference compared to before. The football course is a bit cleaner than before and it is well done compared to how it was before. Yes, the work is progressing well. The work is progressing and the stadium is not how it was before. The stadium was generally clean, but now the stadium is even cleaner and it is in a better state. The General Matthew Kirikou Friendship Stadium has gotten a new face, and this is courtesy benefits of the sports sector. It would also benefit the economic sector of Benin Republic. Crossing to the news in brief, Thulani Maseko, a human rights lawyer and influential opponent in Eswatini, formerly called Swaziland. Sadly, he was shot dead on Saturday night at his home. His political party confirmed on Sunday, hours after a speech of defiance by the king against opponents of his absolute rule. Now, Thulani Maseko was age 52 and he was shot dead by unknown gunmen in his home. Now, the assassin shot him through the window while he was in the house with his family. Sikele Ndalami, the Secretary General of the Swaziland Multi-Stakeholder Forum, stated, and this was a coalition pardon of opposition parties, association and churches calling for democratic reforms which Maseko founded. Now back to the local scene. The opposition now has a seat in the 9th Parliament and they have snatched 28 seats and will have to decide on the same table as the 81 members of the presidential majority. Now this is a step forward and an expression that Benin's democracy is doing well. Now what analysis should be made of the newly elected members of the National Assembly in the next 3 years? This is a question asked by these learned lawyers. Let's hear their responses in the following extract.
C'est vrai que quand nous faisons le point, l'Assemblée nationale sortante était exclusivement constituée de députés de deux partis de la mouvance présidentielle.
It is true that when we observe closely, the outgoing National Assembly was exclusively made up of senators from the two parties of the presidential camp, the Progressive Union, which later became the Renewal Progressive Union and the Republican bloc, the so-called during the last election. We noted that the opposition parties, notably the Democrats, attained a good number and ended up with 28 senators at par with the Republican bloc, the Renewal Non-Progressive Party, which is more like the leading party in Benin's political sphere. It is important to note the atmosphere in which these elections took place. You will notice that people went out peacefully to exercise their franchise. They went to vote. We did not hear that Peter and Paul were prevented from voting. We did not hear about any violence. So people went freely to cast their votes. And I'm very happy. I'm very happy to see that the opposition has acquired the right to be heard in Parliament because it is necessary to acquire this right. It is not enough to stay behind newspapers or to stay behind certain groups of people. To speak, you have to acquire the right. Not to give up speaking for a section of the people in the National Assembly, and the Shrides, Beninese political parties today have understood that they must obtain at least 10% of the national electorate, which mandates them to make an effort in conquering every part of the national territory. And I say bravo to the Democrats who have been able to do this and who today were able to produce 28 senators for their party. This will make it possible to have at the level of the National Assembly different perspectives, which would initiate engaging debates. Because as you know, when it is an assembly of the same party, there is no variety. Now with the opposition party on board, they will be heard, the people will hear them, people will also be able to judge them in relation to their proposals. Already this rejection of the election of the behavior of the Beninese that it was done without violence is false, and this is to the credit of us, all those who are concerned with democratic issues. Those who are concerned with free and peaceful elections.
Sur la question, c'est que nous avons un Parlement qui a intégré l'opposition, une véritable opposition, et qui fait de sorte que nous avons une palette de députés qui représentent la population.
What can be said on the issue is that we have a parliament that has integrated the opposition, a real opposition, and that ensures that we have a range of senators who represent the population in its diversity. And this is to be welcomed. It is important, and it is our democracy that is strengthened by the entry of 28 democratic members of the parliament in the parliament. This will allow us to have variation, hopefully, of a higher quality than what we have seen in the past. Men have always agreed to allow women to decide, except that the places are up for grabs and women have to be able to put themselves in a position to take them. You yourself said that out of 28, 4 are born from the test, and that if there were no tests, it is not certain that we would have had 28 women in power. It is a very important job to be done by women. They should already be more involved in the survey in politics. Women should be more concerned with political issues, with elective issues, because it is one thing to be concerned about politics and another to want to play the leading roles of a preeminent role, such as being a member of the National Assembly. Crossing to the news in brief, Eritrean forces have been leaving towns in the war-torn region, Tigray, stated locals. And this happens as the United States hailed a pull-out seen as key to a landmark peace deal. Now, fighting between the federal troops and Tigray rebels erupted in northern Ethiopia in November 2020 and raged for 2 years before the two sides signed a peace deal. Now, of course, going back to the local scene, a crisis is shaking the Popular Liberation Movement Party in the aftermath of the legislative elections held on the 8th of January 2023. Now, several members of the party are demanding the resignation of the president with a litany of reproaches. A crisis is shaking the Popular Movement Liberation Party in the aftermath of the legislative elections held on the 8th of January 2023 in Benin Republic. Several coordinations of the party and several party members are demanding the resignation of the president with a litany of reproaches. Now, Golfe TV Africa offers you an exclusive look at the genesis of the crisis through this production. It is an unprecedented crisis that is shaking the young political movement, the Popular Movement of Liberation Party in Benin Republic. Now, this crisis is born out of the last legislative elections held on the 8th of January 2023 in Benin Republic. This crisis has drawn the attention of the populace. One of the party's vice president has this to say. Well, the party secretary general, disregard for party text is one of the causes of the crisis. According to the president of the People's Liberation Movement, this crisis is a manipulation of the youth who should show clear-headedness. The justice system will handle the matter and it will be referred to the courts. I regret the experience. According to the information reaching them, the media release of the honorary president of the party is expected in the next few days in order to clarify the national and international opinion. The result of the just concluded legislative elections has left a sour taste in the mouths of some members of the party. Al-Qaeda linked extremists stormed the regional government office in Somalia's capital, on Sunday, the 22nd of January, and 5 civilians were killed, the government stated. Now, the founder of the Amin Ambulance Service, Abdul Kadi Adan, told the Associated Press his team collected 16 wounded people from the scene. Away from that, still, of course, on the African scene, and Thursday, administrative town hall was the signing and the handing over of a framework agreement to 20 civil society organizations, which took place at the administrative town hall. More information in the following report. On Thursday, the 19th of January 2023, at the Administrative Town Hall, there was a signing and handing over of a framework agreement to 20 civil society organizations, which took place at the Administrative Town Hall. The ceremony reinforces the partnership between the government and 20 civil society organizations. This agreement is a breath of fresh air to the non-governmental organization. This partnership between the government and the non-governmental organization grants them customs and tax exemptions, as well as technical and administrative support. The non-governmental organization representatives welcome this government initiative. This opportunity is a means to aid new demands for the proper functioning of the structure of the non-governmental organizations. The 3 non-governmental organizations that applied for the first time and to whom the agreement was awarded is following a well-defined process. They have met all the criteria and therefore are qualified to benefit from this framework agreement scheduled to last for the next 3 years. Crossing over to this brief story of hope. Now, thousands of South African Zulu men gathered at the historic site of Eastern Wana on Saturday, the 25th of January, to mark the day in 1879 when Zulus won a decisive victory over the British. Now, it is one of the greatest triumphs in Zulu history and the only battle in which spears and ox-hide shields annihilated the guns and cannons of the British Army. The event was also addressed by King Misuzulu Kaswalatili, Zulu warrior Muzi Nyandeni. Away from that, of course, crossing over to Tanzania. Tanzania's opposition Chadema party held its first mass rally since a ban imposed by former President John Magufuli was lifted. Now, the 2016 ban was removed by the current President Samia Suluhu Hassan, raising hopes of greater political freedom in Tanzania.
The opposition Chadema party held its first mass rally since the ban imposed by former President John Magufuli was lifted. The 2016 ban was removed by current President Samia Suluhu Hassan, raising hopes of greater political freedom, and party workers are keen to make the most of the opportunity. Tanzania's first woman president reached out to rivals, reopened banned media outlets, and reversed some of Magufuli's most controversial policies. The rally marked the 30th anniversary of the party's political registration. Supporters wore the party colors, blue, red, and white, and sang songs praising their leaders while just a handful of police officers looked on. Supporters are cautiously welcoming recent developments as a move towards greater democracy in Tanzania. President Hassan has been in power for 22 months and is hoping to break with some of the Magufuli's hardline policies.
Burkina Faso's army has freed 66 women and children who were abducted earlier this month by Islamic extremists while gathering food in the country's northern Sahelian region, according to a state television report. This occurred on Friday, the 20th of January. Crossing away from Burkina Faso, moving to Nigeria. Now, former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, has said that only an unpatriotic and bad Nigerian would vote for a candidate with bad character. Now, he said this in support of the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi. More information in the following report. Former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, has said that only an unpatriotic and bad Nigerian will vote for a candidate with bad character. Obasanjo spoke on Thursday in Abeokuta, the capital of Ogun State, while featuring in an interactive session of the experiential leadership in Africa with the theme Executive Decisions, Indecisions and Leadership Development in Africa. While defending his choice of Labour Party's presidential candidate Peter Obi, the former president of Nigeria said Obi was his preferred candidate for the presidency. The Punch reports that the former president, in his New Year message to Nigerians entitled, "My appeal to all Nigerians, particularly young Nigerians," expressed his support for the Labour Party presidential candidate. While reacting to a statement that he endorsed Obi, Obasanjo insisted that he did not use the word endorse, but he only gave his opinion on the candidates. Obasanjo said, "Whether the letter is open or not, what I believe is that I will be punished by God if I know what is right and I do not put it where it should be. The word I use is that one particular candidate has an edge. Taking everything together, I take the character, track record, vision, and what you see in this man as a child of God." Obasanjo, in his response on whether or not multi-party system has been the bane of development in Nigeria, blamed leadership and not the multi-party system for the underdevelopment of Nigeria. Good afternoon, dear viewers. You're welcome. You're still on to the 1 p.m. news edition, and this is the African newspaper review, where I take a look at the stories that are trending on the African scene. I have the Punch Nigeria, the Citizen Tanzania, I have the Nation Nigeria, the Nation Malawi, just to mention a few. Now let's get started with the top stories, and this story is of maximum importance because it's going to affect the Benin Republic and other countries. Now it's saying that petrol may hit 800 naira per litre on subsidy removal. We all know that in Nigeria there has been a clamor by the government and some personalities to remove the subsidy. Subsidy simply means that it is the Nigerian government that is paying for a part of the petrol, thereby reducing the amount of money the populace will pay on petrol. Now, if they remove the subsidy, pardon me, it simply means the Nigerian citizens will be paying 800 naira per litre, and if fuel is 800 naira per litre in Nigeria, then trust me, in Benin Republic, it will skyrocket. It could even be more than 1,000 francs CFA. Now, away from that, let's now cross over to this story that is trending. And it's saying banks battle new Naira shortage ahead of deadline. Now, the background of that story is talking about the fact that right now, new Naira notes, have been sent into the population, have been sent into the community in Nigeria. And right now, the CBN has given a deadline that if you do not bring all your old Naira into the bank before a particular date, then the money is going to lose its value. And now the banks are battling this shortage ahead of the deadline. And still on that story, this says Lagos and Federal Capital Territory states ATM dispense old notes. Now the question is, the federal government CBN has given directives that from a particular date, the old notes will no longer be valid. And then you now see ATMs dispensing old notes. That's quite an irony. And the deadline for this is the 31st of January. Below that story, it says CBN begins currency swap for rural and, okay, let me just clean that. It says CBN begins currency swap for rural and unbanked Nigerians. That is people that are not used to using bank facilities. Some people, they bury their money in the ground, they keep it under their bed. Now CBN is doing the swap. And still on the pages of the Punch, this story says, it says stakeholders foresee extension as customers want the Central Bank of Nigeria to shift ground on the pages of the Punch Nigeria. Now, still on the pages of the Punch Nigeria, I'm going to have to lift this up because it's a very important story. Now, this story says diphtheria spreads to Lagos. NCDC monitors Oshu and Yobe. Now, somebody is going to be asking, what is the meaning of this? Now, diphtheria is a new pandemic that has seized Lagos, seized Kano, and the amount of cases recording is quite scary, you know. And right now, it's spreading, and the NCDC, which is in charge of monitoring health pandemics, is monitoring the situation closely. And still on the pages of the Punch Nigeria, this story is saying MK Abiola's wife sues the IG and demands 100 billion naira on the pages of the Punch Nigeria. Now, if you're curious, you could check the pages of the Punch. And the last daily I'll read, or rather, the last headline on the Punch I'll read says, sacked UI University of Ibadan female lecturer petition Senate and VC summoned on the pages of the Punch. Now, we're going to be crossing away from the pages of the Punch Nigeria, touching other stories that are trending on the African scene, because apparently this is the newspaper review. Now, away from that, crossing over to the pages of the Citizen Tanzania. On the pages of the Citizen Tanzania, this story reads, on the pages of the Citizen, this story goes thus. Now, on the pages of the Citizen Tanzania, it says, the BOT government, that is this story, I'm reading this story, it says, BOT governor eager for EAC bank verdict. And if you read this below, it says, the new board of trustees governor is looking forward to a decision on which country would host the planned East African Monetary Institute and the regulator that would oversee the monetary union of the 7-member East African countries. Still on the pages of the Citizen Tanzania, it says, Vice President spots barriers to justice delivery. And this story says, coal shipment on the rise at Ntawari port, on the pages of the Citizen Tanzania. Now, crossing away from the Citizen Tanzania, let's see the stories that are making the round on the front page of the Front Page Liberia. That's a tautology, but that's the dailies. It is the Front Page Liberia. Now, on the Front Page Liberia, the story goes thus. My screen is acting funny, but I'm definitely going to have to work around it. Now, on the pages of the front page, the story is talking about MDR and Johnson acknowledged talks with ANC. And this is the story I'm reading right about now. It's saying NDR's Prince Johnson acknowledged talks with ANC up as stocks breaks down with ruling CDC. And it says blackmailing or political battling on the pages of the front page Liberia. And still on the front page Liberia, it's saying man of the youth. If you know you're curious about that, you could check the pages of the front page Liberia. The front page doesn't really have so much for us today. Now, away from the front page Liberia, let's now go back to Nigeria, see what is trending on the pages of the nation Nigeria. When I saw this daily today, I was really startled because the stories were not so much. But anyways, my duty to keep you informed, and that I shall do. Now, on the pages of the nation Nigeria, it says millions of Nigerians can't be wrong, and this is a campaign for the candidate of the All Progressive Congress, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And still on that, this is talking about Kogi State, one of the 36 states in Nigeria, and it's saying Kogi governor support for Tinubu unshaken. It's like on the pages of the nation, it's just stories of campaign. We're going to have to move away from the pages of the nation Nigeria. Still on the African scene, let's cross over to the last dailies for today, which is the pages of the Guardian Post Cameroon. Now, on the pages of the Guardian Post Cameroon, the stories that are trending today. Now, on the Guardian Post has a couple of stories I would love to read. And this says, Northwest Regional Assembly register 11 needy students for GCE. Now, GCE is just like WAEC, but for people that do not have the opportunity to go to school. And this story reads, after the government separatists endorsed Canada to facilitate dialogue, and it's saying Amazonian kingpin hails Biya for engaging peace talks. Still on the Anglophone crisis, that is one of the most underrated crises on the African scene. Now, still on the pages of the Guardian Post Cameroon, it says the new digital feature that makes life easier for, okay, that's a particular subscriber, and more trouble for Tinubu campaign, more trouble for Tinubu as campaign director and other APC bigwig resigns. The Nigerian election is just a few days from now, counting down. So there's a whole lot of politics that's happening in Nigeria. And our dear viewers, this is where I conclude today's edition of the African Newspaper Review, coming to you live and direct from Golfe TV Africa here in the city of Cotonou. I am Hazel OGOIGBE. Thank you for tuning in. This is going to the Democratic Republic of Congo, and it says authorities in Goma in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo have clashed with demonstrators on Wednesday. Around 100 demonstrators gathered to demand the withdrawal of East African Community Forces deployed to fight armed groups in the eastern part of the country. Democratic Republic of Congo have clashed with demonstrators on Wednesday. Around 100 demonstrators gathered to demand the withdrawal of the East African Community Forces deployed to fight armed groups in the eastern part of the country. Which rocked the Rumo venue in the Mile 1 axis of Port Harcourt in Nigeria. A similar event held by the People's Democratic Party in Edo State ended in disarray after unknown men fired gunshots at the campaign ground. The campaign rally was going on peacefully in Ward 7 of the Edo Central Local Government area when the sounds of gunshots fired by suspected political thugs suddenly filled the air, forcing the party faithfuls to scamper in fear. The Punch newspaper gathered that the Rivers State APC governorship candidate Tonya Cole and the other candidates vying for various positions were present at the Rumowoji rally when the blast occurred. Eyewitnesses stated that the explosions were preceded by shootings at 1:20 p.m. Sadly, 3 persons, including 2 women, were injured in the ensuing chaos. Earlier, the gate leading to the venue, popularly known as the Ojuku Field, was locked against the party members and supporters by the youth of the area. The gate was subsequently opened when the party chieftains, including former APC acting national chairman Chief Victor Giadom, and their supporters arrived at the venue. Speaking of the rally, Giadom condemned the incidents which he blamed on suspected political thugs. He urged the party members and supporters to remain resolute despite the threats, saying the bullets fired could not scare the APC from winning the elections in the state. And our dear viewers, to conclude today's news edition, here's a recap of our top stories. The General Matthew Kirikou Stadium in Cotonou has been renovated, and this comes with a welcome from the populace. We also saw that the opposition now has a seat in the 9th Parliament. They have snatched 28 seats and will have to decide on the same table as the 81 members of the presidential majority. Thanks for tuning into Golfe TV Africa. I am Hazel OGOIGBE. Enjoy the rest of your day.